The spectacular high-definition society that we live in today is no longer a reality, but a hyperreality. The postmodernist elaboration of this term, hyperreality, may be elaborated as an inability of consciousness where the human is failing to distinguish this reality, instead is attracted to a simulation of this reality. Especially in such times, this inability may be a shortcoming, hence the inability is coined as the existential split. The subject of research is to understand and analyze the schizoid condition of today's society, and hence there is a direct analogy comparing this schizoid experience to the experience simulated by today's environment. What is this schizoid condition? There exists or occurs a glitch in the information flows, and hence this disconnects the person from the exterior reality, leading him to misreading a space. The thesis argument dwells into an investigation of the nature of space and its relation with the humans. It then tries to understand the space of a schizophrenic in this context, looking at identity, formality, etc. It tries to pursue a space of empowerment. The investigation further dwells into understanding the idea of normal, and hence deviance and schizophrenia are also given a place to coexist in this realm. Concepts which are stigmatized, for example concepts like madness and abnormality, are also given a place to exist in this. The idea is to encourage empowerment and identity in this construct, and hence this madness also needs to be channelized. As a result, schizophrenia or delusion, this need not be considered as a problem, it's merely a condition. This thesis tries to understand the existence of delusion in this society. It tries to look at instances where this kind of fragmentation is taking place. The topic of research is to analyze the state of architecture in today's environment and to investigate its role and relevance. The fragmented state of today's context can be chiefly attributed to the exponentially increasing scale, speed of developments and changes. This has led to an explosion of information and stimuli, resulting in our inability to cope up with it and process it. The human mind is not able to cope up with what is bombarded at it. The delusion has been created and realized into the society through various stages and multiple factors. They are as follows. Architecture is the result of many environmental factors acting upon it, while simultaneously it itself impacts the various aspects of the environment. Thus, they both end up shaping each other. So if the society is characterized by disjunction and fragmentation, then the built environment is ought to reflect the same. In certain instances of this deluded behavior in today's architectural realm can be like this. There is a type of delusion in the city which is commonly identified as the informal. Essentially, informal is a concept that deals with departure from legitimization, a setup that is self-determined, organic, and does not follow any pre-decided patterns and rules set by the higher authority. A few examples of how this delusional or informal physicality is developed are slums, informal markets, streets, etc. Delusion which is denied, stigmatized, and excluded under tags of ambiguous nature is in fact the reality of the situation. I conducted flaneur trips or walkthroughs in certain patches of the city to understand this informal. This helped me understand what could create these delusional deviances. Mapping this informal in a non-cartographic way to blur the pre-existing boundaries was done to understand the psychological aspects behind these societal layers. The mapping led to an understanding of arboreal spaces, arboreal structures, and rhizomatic environments. Arboreal structure is like a tree where the structure has a start, a middle, and an end. It's extremely organized. The rhizome resists this organizational structure of a root tree system. Rhizome has no beginning or an end. It's always in the middle, between things. A lot of delusional tendencies work with this rhizomatic structure, and it's present everywhere in the city. All the informal is in fact rhizomatic in nature. Hence, the intent here is to explore rhizomatic ways of thinking and allowing the build-up of smooth spaces by breaking all rigid forms of this order imposed. A multiplicity of these informal deviances was seen in the walkthrough from Lal Bagh to Parel. Lal Bagh and Parel, being culturally rich contexts, were one of the driving force to dwell furthermore into studying them. A basic mapping of these areas helped me uncover a very rigid crystalline matrix of spaces which were anchored in this rich patch. They were the mills which were situated in the heart of this fluid rhizome. Narrowing down to the idea of crystallization, which is a process where the parts or the components are highly organized in a structure, it helps becoming them into a solid crystal. This does not allow any kinds of flows to pass through it. Since this thesis tries to deal with the idea of flux and delusional tendencies, I choose to deal with such crystals in the city and deconstruct them. Narrowing down to one of the most prominent crystallizations in the city today, I choose the context of Girangaon, where all the mills are situated. In this, the epicenter of India United Mills number 1 is taken as the site, as it has a spread over the entire area. I try to understand these mills by making their lexicon. A lexicon is the vocabulary of something, and hence to deconstruct a text, first you must need to understand the vocabulary. The same is done to the mills. The study is as follows. The main area of this intervention, which is the junction, it's taken as the identity marker and the focus of the entire attempt. The strong junction, which acts as an epicenter for the 3 wards, became a necessary study. Shifting the focus from ITC Grand Central to Bharat Mata in the micro context, and hence creating and studying the different interfaces, is necessary to understand what these interfaces are doing. A micro level analysis showing the site is surrounded by major typologies also helps us understand the different identity markers in the context. Dividing these and understanding the focus of these different instances as are represented by the box and the different signs. A final distinction of all the previous ideas is made, and the potentialities of these ideas are deconstructed and further explored. A further study into the physical characteristics of the site is conducted. The site is seen through the lens of an urban developer, and hence various bylaws and requirements are also studied to develop the site. The user activities are mapped from time to time, and hence a demographic profile of the site is generated. In a delusional environment, architecture, instead of organizing or creating order, must take up the role of subverting all the rigidities and linearities of thought. It should deviate from crystallization, which acts as an overpowering arboreal structure in the society. In fact, it should allow production of these spaces that facilitate a delusional performance. The intent of the thesis is to display and highlight the condition of the society, where societal structures do not hold relevant in today's fragmented, disconnected time. The idea is to take the rigid concept of the mill and gradually break it down using the process of deconstruction. Its physical form as well as the philosophies that it stands for are deconstructed in steps, resulting in a complete breakdown. Marginal spaces get created in the process, which can be personalized by the user for varied purposes. Through these expression, an entire network is formed, a self-organized system of processes that operates for its sustenance like that on an informal street. Owing to these conclusions, the design principles, aims and objectives are formulated. Single destination buildings serve a single function, so they become a singular experience, rather than a layered multiplicity of experiences. But today we are seeing an increasing trend in architecture towards creating multi-point experiences through community-focused design. We can create diverse communities by creating multiple functions and also bringing life to a space at different times for many different reasons. Architecture, as any manifestation of the human intellect, evolves along with the evolution of human needs. The existence of multifunctional architecture makes increasing sense in modern lives, where distances and time of travel explain convenience of gathering activities. At present, the dream of achieving sustainable development of contemporary cities has been partly realized by shaping new types of public spaces defined as hybrid spaces. There is a need of design of multifunctional experimental public spaces and buildings. The program deals with multiple elaborations of different spaces and exploring their potentials. Spatial elements are broken down and their existence in multiple instances is explored. For example, a staircase is not only used as a vertical circulation element, it's imagined as a platform for interaction too. The program majorly houses a co-working space with an edge given to the digital media world. The second most important chunk of the program dwells in the public realm, where the ground spaces are covered by plazas for the culturally rich context that it is. On a macro scale, the co-working spaces are broken down into multiple programmatic elements for distinction, and the public levels are given a cultural spectrum of activities. Ancillary activities are plugged into the construct too to make it a wholesome multi-layered experience. In coherence with the idea of multiple interpretations of any space to make it fluid, the structure uses an inside-out deconstructive philosophy. This accentuates the idea of a space which can be imagined and perceived in multiple ways. The space deals with creating heterogeneity in experience and uses overpowering structural elements to create a feel of delusion as the constructing elements act as overpowering stimuli. The structure is completed in different phases. The frame is constructed in 3 phases: primary, secondary, and intermediate. The cores are strategically placed so as to serve each quadrant of the space. The core geometry is such that the co-working blocks retrofit into them, providing maximum stability. The volume is also lightened in this approach. The center of the structure houses a helical vortex, which is further explained. The ground level has all the public activities gravitated. From the porous edge, which is inviting to the people, to the step plaza, the ground showcases an array of activities. A choreographed multi-layered experience starts on the ground itself, where the user is given more than one way to enter the space from multiple landscaped portions, be it the ramp, be it the stepped plaza entries, or be it the main grand entrance. The existing retail facade on the south boundary is shifted to a temporal retail space around the core. The first level acts as a lofted experience of the ground plaza, housing activities for the public and the community. It has a central vortex lobby, the cafe, a restaurant for the public, and a multi-purpose auditorium for conventions. The portals on the community plaza area act as a bridge for the public and semi-public areas. Amphitheaters are also embedded into this setting to create a public experience. The co-working components start from the second level, where the space houses a common multi-purpose convertible ballroom and an auditorium for seminars. The informal waiting areas are all planned around the central vortex lobby of the staircase. The center is a spectacle of a hypotrochoidal vortex staircase. The staircase is a streamlined singular ramp, imagined and bent in the form of a hypotrochoidal shape made of multiple petals. It braces into the floor plate using a geometrical triangular member to anchor itself, hence creating triangular voids on different floor plates on the same floor and above. The upper co-working levels are independent co-working office blocks serving multiple quadrants at the same time. The building has a reimagined form of the north light roof. Hereby, the original mill roof is reimagined, deconstructed, and used as a roof as well as a building skin for the facade for aesthetic and shading purposes. The upper floor plates follow a similar geometry and hence induce a sense of being a heterogeneous assemblage, although the structure is built to be a homogeneous mass with a solid and void principle. Hence, this is how the structure assembles itself. While in section, an attempt to make the structure appear as light as possible is made, the assemblage, using its construction elements, tries to highlight itself. The planning principles of vertical transparency and maximum visual connection are used. The structure has a hyperreal glass pod meeting area, which is designed to look like a floating meeting space. This is mainly done for an emphasis on reimagining breakout spaces as meeting corridors too, which give a sense of levitation. In conclusion, the structure is seen as a performance, where at the end, the user who performs in this assemblage is the key. The structure sheds and gains identities and makes a multiple layered performance. It drifts away from the notion of creating identity and moves towards perceiving one.